I just thought I'd make this because it's something that's on my mind a lot recently, and it's something that's really annoying me. The word Nazi is being overused at the moment. Now, what are my problems with this? I'll get into in a second, but I would just like to preface this by saying I have a background in history. I'm a history major, and I just find it really frustrating the way this word's being used at the moment for a few reasons. One, overuse for words kind of kills the meaning. You know, there's so many words out there in the lexicon, especially when it comes to specialist terms, which is kind of what the term Nazi is. I'm going to be honest. I know it's thrown around quite actively, but it is a specific historical and political term, which is being thrown around like it means nothing now. For people that are on the right of politics, that people don't like, to be honest. That's the way it's being used at the moment. Now, why do I think it's being overused? Well, because it's one of the most horrific groups of people in human history. And so basically, when you get someone that you don't like that's on the right wing, people like to throw the word around because it kind of hyperbolizes how bad these people are. Now, say, for example, the guy that runs Twitter, Mr. Elon Musk, he's a neo fascist. He might be a neo Nazi if you're going a bit more extreme. I don't think he is a neo Nazi, I think he's a neo fascist, but he certainly isn't a Nazi. Now, I know he did the Nazi salute. The thing is coming from a historical context, Nazis are people that were in a specific party, and that party was around for about 25 years. To be honest, it's primarily been around, it was primarily around for about 17 years, but if you're going to be kind of more, I guess, indirect, you could say 25 years, right? Now, what's another problem that I have with people using the word Nazi in general is that it seems kind of ignorant, considering the fact that it's mainly Americans that are using it recently that I'm seeing. And let me just cut to chase. America did not feel the horrors of the Second World War in the same way that Europe did. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, America was a huge player in the Second World War, of course. I will never deny that. They were involved with the war for 4 years, and they did a lot of the legwork in the war, especially in Asia. Helped out a lot in the war in Europe too, famously. But let me be clear, America was not damaged in the same way that a lot of Europe was by the Nazis. None of their cities were bombed. And yes, while there were damages to American life, there was no damage to American property. There was no requirement for a rebuild after the war. And to be honest, the main impact on it was really the economy and then the following Marshall Plan that came to Europe afterwards. So I think the entire landscape of Europe was significantly changed following the Second World War due to the Nazis, right? If you want to just look at case studies, Germany is obviously the most affected by National Socialism, by Nazis, and the result of which was the country being partitioned into two halves. Or, well, to be honest, it was partitioned into five, but for the sake of kind of West versus East, kind of communist versus capitalist, it was partitioned into two. We can see that Germany was actually struggling to become a nation, and only became a unified nation again in 1990, right? So when we're talking about Nazis, and we're talking about the fallout, the damage, and the repairs that had to happen in Europe, and that are still, to be honest, happening because of Nazis, I think throwing around the word Nazi like it's just people that are on the far right is wrong, is incorrect. Nazis were a party, they were a group of people that did horrific, abhorrent things that caused deaths of hundreds of millions, that caused a Holocaust, and to be honest, were one of the most horrific groups in human history that has been documented, right? There is a big difference between them and neo-fascists and neo-Nazis. Now, you might be thinking you're splitting hairs here between the difference between Nazis and neo-Nazis. No. Neo-Nazis are people that take the ideology of National Socialism, of like fascism in a very specific mold, and are applying that kind of in a more modern setting. Neo-Nazis also, to be honest, don't really hearken that many similarities to the actual Nazi party. And it is a fairly loose term for people that are far right and authoritarian. It's again really frustrating to see just this term being bandied around. Now, obviously, we're seeing a lot as well at the moment of swastikas being drawn on public, well, people's property and just stuff in general. Do I have a problem with this? To be honest, no. I think if you get caught, unlucky, but I think by the premise itself, it's kind of whatever, really. I don't really care. However, I think it sets a dangerous precedent when you're just attacking things rather than actual corporations themselves. I think if you're going to make a stand, making it against the consumer is a bit of a strange thing to do. If you're going to be anti-establishment, attack the establishment, not the consumer. You know, I just feel like that is an unhelpful way of going about it. Do I disagree with it fundamentally? Not really. Do I think if you are someone that supports Elon Musk and this entire kind of far right movement, do I, you know, think that that's bad that you're attacking these people? Maybe if you're doing violently, but to be honest, spraying on people's stuff isn't particularly violent. It's provocative and it gets the message across. Do I innately have a problem with that? Between me and you, not really. I think, to be honest, fascism and the far right is something that does need to be addressed with a level of, what's the word? Intolerance, I suppose. You know, social ostracization of things that are extreme and that are, to be honest, fundamentally damaging society or planning to do so is absurd. I mean, going back to the Twitter man, he's from South Africa. He's gone to America. He's put millions into the campaigns for Trump. And I think it was Ron DeSantis as well. He put about 10 million into his campaign. So he's putting incredible amounts of money into these campaigns. He was supporting the FD in Germany. AfD in Germany. He was supporting a fascist movement in Italy. He's supporting the Reform Party in the UK. These are all either fascist movements or far-right movements. To be honest, the Reform Party is just a right-wing populist party with a branch that is very far-right, in my opinion. Or far-right and just objective, to be honest. There are far-right people in that party. That isn't really a controversial take, nor is it a false take. But going back to the term Nazi, it's not something you can throw around. Back on track. I think the way it's being used at the moment is unhelpful. It weakens the usage of the word. And to be frank, it's just incorrect. It is ignorant. So just, please, for the love of all things holy, stop just throwing the word Nazi around like it means, you know, just a bad thing. No. Be correct. Say fascist, neo-fascist, even neo-Nazi if you have to. But the word Nazi is a very specific historical term. And to be honest, I would personally say that Nazis don't exist anymore. Because the Nazi party does no longer exist, right? I know you can say that's pedantic. I know you can kind of go that route. Yeah, it is a bit pedantic. But I think it's also, it devalues the horrific things the Nazi party did. The Holocaust, causing the Second World War. The millions, hundreds of millions that are dead. The properties are damaged. The city I live in, Swansea, is still damage done from the blitz that they did on this city that hasn't been repaired. And there's so many cities out there across Europe that are the exact same. And you just go to think, like, it's ignorant and it downgrades the vast amount of damage that party did by just calling people that aren't Nazis Nazis. It's, in my opinion, just not appropriate, overly reactionary, and just, you know, needs to stop. But yeah, anyway. Cool. Thanks for watching. I'll see you around. All right, bye-bye.